do, and how long have you been set up?
So we have our main business, which is called, or our holding business, which is called Helm Enterprise Solutions. We set that up in 2010, and then in 2012 we bought a franchise which is called Inside Six, and that's all focused on mystery shopping, customer feedback, customer surveys, that kind of thing.
Wow.
And we also then in 2014 we got involved with leaflet distribution when we purchased the franchise for South East London and Bromley from door to door. So we run those businesses out of an office and warehouse space in Swanley.
Why did you set the companies up? What's your why for doing it?
Originally the business was set up because I needed to have a limited company to do while I was doing some contracting work in sort of sales and sales operations, and so that's why I set the company up. But then as time sort of progressed, a couple of opportunities came up.
I think that's the same with lots of people, isn't it?
Yeah.
They need that one first company, don't they?
So yeah, we set it up, and we hadn't really. So it's really me and my wife basically, and my sister-in-law Natalie works with us as well. So there's the three of us that are kind of the employees, if you like.
Yeah.
But then we have a number of workers, if you like, for mystery shoppers and also leaflet distributors. So it's quite a big team of people all together, but it's just the three of us that run the business.
Yeah, and all local staff.
Yeah, so
locally.
On the mystery shopping side of things, the majority of we call them researchers, they live in Kent and Bromley and London. So they're kind of in our area, but we have full UK coverage when that's concerned. So we have researchers across the country, and we've done projects nationwide, including in Ireland as well. So, and we, as a business, we have done work in other territories, in Europe, in Dubai and other things. So we have, we do have that
scope,
capability,
yeah.
But majority of the work that we do is kind of local and national.
And what sort of price can people expect to pay for a mystery shopper? Are there different packages that they could go for with you?
Yeah, because it depends what the client wants. Some clients want you to run a call activity where you're calling to test the process for, how do you handle inquiries? So it could be a web experience, or it could be a telephone, right? What happens next? That kind of thing. So they're relatively, you're getting those for under £100.
Wow.
But when it comes to walk-ins, it becomes a bit more tricky to give you a sort of one price, because it depends what's involved.
Yeah, what your aims are.
Yeah, so but generally you're kind of between £100 and £200, because we also do video mystery shopping as well. So that you have a covert camera on your body really somewhere, and or in your bag as well, so you can have it in the bag. And so so
great for places like M&S though, isn't it? And like the big shoppers like Tesco and Sainsbury's, and just to see that the big bosses get to see what their staff are really like.
Yeah, so I take it people would they would hire your services for that because they want to test how the staff are interacting with their customers, or
yeah, exactly that, because they will have a process in place about the way they want the customers to be dealt with, if you like, in the sense of what kind of experience do we want our customers to have when they come into our store or come into our business. So we work with the client to define what that actually is.
Okay.
So there's a structured report for every single assignment that we do, whether that's a telephone call, a web inquiry, or whether that's a physical mystery shop that's taking place.
Okay.
So we'll work with them so the researcher knows what to expect when they get into that environment, in the terms of they are looking out for specific things, and those specific things are specific to those businesses. It could be they're looking for them to say something about the service that they provide, like an add-on, like an upsell. And if the customer or the researcher says a certain thing, then that should trigger the next step. So it could well be that the researcher will say, or the customer might say that. Like, for example, say you call a a law firm and you're selling your house, and you're about to sell your house and you're buying a new house. Well, what might you need after that purchase? Well, you might need a will. So is the lawyer or the solicitor saying to that vendor that's looking to buy or sell their house, do you have a will in place? Have you thought about having a will in place? You know, you're buying a new house, you know, if they've got children, and all those kinds of things that trigger that kind of upsell in the world of the customer, or rather the client. But whereas the customer will need that potentially, so you're just selling through service as opposed to sales in the more traditional sense.
It's a great way to train your staff as well, isn't it? You know, like if you think that everyone's trained up, but until they actually go and do it for real, then you don't know what they're going to say, do you? You don't know if they're going to, where did you hear about us? You know, things like that.
So the things like where do you hear about us? You would think on a telephone or a web inquiry or even a walk-in inquiry, depending on what you're you know, if you're an accountant, how did you hear about us? Because you can then pass that back to the marketing team and say,
people don't ask it though, do they?
No.
How's your marketing doing? People don't ask, where did you hear about us? It's like one of the most crucial things, isn't it?
I ask all the time, because from our leaflet distribution point of view, we do a lot of activity when it comes to social media, when we do mail shots, when we put our own leaflets out, plus Google AdWords. And it's nice to know that your money you're spending, all the effort you're putting in, is getting some level of...
People don't measure, do they?
No.
And that's a great way to measure. Where did you hear about
Because it might be that you're getting a lot of activity out of your Google AdWords. You're getting a lot of inquiries. If you don't know that, the Google dashboards will tell you a certain amount of information, but if they're not transferring into actual calls, then you can make a decision. Do I increase my budget? Do I reduce my budget? Do I change my keywords? All those kinds of things.
So Mark, if you're a small business and you've not got a budget, how can companies or businesses measure effectively their customer service or their feedback? What would you recommend they do?
I think you need to do, there's two things that you could do that wouldn't necessarily cost you any money, but they would require some time. So you can firstly ask your team, what do you think of the service that we're providing to our customers? What do you think we could do to improve it? And if you've got a few of your team in a room and did a little focus activity and just, you know, talked about what could we do to improve, what's it like right now, what could we do to improve, then that's one way of doing it. So if you said to all your team, right, you know, what happens when an inquiry comes in? What does that process look like? What happens? How are you going to score it out of 10?
So like a mapping.
So you would say,
journey
customer journey mapping is a great way to do that, and something that is becoming more and more talked about across the channels, but also the businesses are talking about it, they're thinking about it. Because if, for example, you say to your team, right, give us a score out of 10 for how we handle inquiries, and they say 7, you go around the room, 7, 8, different scoring. Right, okay, what would we need to do to make that 10? And suddenly people start thinking about, do you know, I never thought about that before. What about if we did this? How could you then think about businesses that you engage with as a customer, and what is it that they do that we could do to make it a 10 in our business?
For them,
And that's kind of how you run, or we run, journey mapping sessions, when you start to identify the touch points or the interactions or the interventions where you're talking or interacting with a customer. Right, what happens at that point, at that touch point? Right, let's talk. And the other thing to think about when you're doing that is, you know, there's 3 things you should think about. Is, did it work? You know, did I get transferred to the expert in the law firm? No, the phone cut off. Right, we need to fix that process. What happened there? What went on? And sort of investigate. Right, you know, so okay, it worked, but was it easy? You know, did they make it easy for me when they answered the phone? You know, hiya, Sarah here. Sarah, are you in the wills and probate division? You know, you actually want Sarah to say, hey, I'm in the Sarah and Will's team or whatever.
Volunteer it before you have
Yeah,
to
exactly.
ask it. Yeah.
Right. So
Make it smooth.
and then kind of the next one, which is the most important one, is the same thing as you don't remember what people did, you don't remember what people said, but you do remember how they made you feel.
Yes.
And it's that is right. The third thing, the most important thing, is right. How did you make the customer feel? But also, how was the employee feeling? Because they might have been feeling awkward because they might have been thinking, I don't like telling people my name. But until you sort of have a conversation with that employee and says, why don't you like using your name? Well, I feel embarrassed, I don't like my name. There could be a whole load of reasons why they didn't want to use their name. So you start to drill down a bit on that and have a conversation. You think, well, how can we get to the point where we can get our staff giving the name? Because we know from our data at Insight 6 that the name badge and giving the name improves the experience by at least 12%.
Oh wow, does it? Wow.
I think, definitely. I mean, I always make a point when if I go into a shop, particularly if you've got the staff members and they're wearing their name badge, I always make a point of making a note of their name, and I always say their name.
Yeah, and it
I've
makes
been with
a
Sarah
difference.
loads of times on this,
Yeah.
and they absolutely love it. They just melt. They're like so surprised that she's mentioned their name. Seriously,
Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah.
you're seen then, aren't you? You're not just that
they
person
give a different
behind the
service
till
as well,
or-
don't they?
Of course, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would like that myself if I had a name badge.
Yeah.
For someone to approach me and call me by my name.
Yeah, no, it is magical to see. It really is. They go really out their way. Especially, we've been on holiday before, and Sarah made a note of all the names of the waiters, and they were like, "Oh my God, you remember?" They were like so flattered, weren't they, that you remember
Sarah,
their
you would be
name?
a brilliant mystery shopper or researcher.
Yes, I would love to do that as well. Yes, sign me up. Yes.
You've missed out on our.
Like I'm a little sideline.
Don't steal her.
You could easily, you can. I mean, we have quite a lot of our researchers are full-time jobs and do different things at the weekend or in the lunch break.
Oh, lovely.
Wow.
Or in the evenings. Some of the stuff we do is out of hours, so you need to put in an out of hours inquiry and see how that goes.
Oh,
That's a great way. So internal brainstorming. I don't think a lot of companies ask their staff, "How do you think we're doing? What could we do better?"
Yeah,
Do
and no, they don't. And by the same token, do they ask their customers?
Yeah.
A lot of people or companies don't ask their customers because they're scared of what they're going to say. What are they going to say? Because I think we've got some data where 80% of company directors believe they're giving a great service to their customers. The data tells them that 8% of their customers think they give a great service. So there's a big difference between what a business might think and what their customers might think. And it's only until you start saying, right, I'm going to ask, I'm going to deal with the truth, and I'm going to see what happens. And sometimes they're going to get surprised. They're going to find out that actually by finding out...
All your staff are rude.
Or they might get that, but they might also be able to say to certain members of the team, they're giving a great service. I come here because of this person, and that's why I don't go anywhere else. So all of a sudden, that person is kind of exposed in hopefully a good way, where you can turn around and say, right, how do we get everybody else to be of that kind of standard? And most of the time, customer experience fails because of the people or the process. Because if your process isn't right and you're not giving the right level of training, then how can you expect your teams to give a really great standard of service? They might do it because that's what they want to do, and until you start sort of getting that feedback and finding out, so are the people capable of delivering the kind of service that you want to see in your business? They probably are, where you need to make them
You might need
aware.
to tweak it, mightn't you?
Or it could be that the staff member's unhappy with where they're working. It's a case of, well, I'm
and
just
they're going
doing
to tell
this.
everybody.
Well, exactly. So
I love
that's
the
the key thing
idea
as
of the
well.
mystery shopper as well. That's a really good. Find the to Dusty.
As we did a survey with a nursery group, where you take your kids for preschool and whatever, and we surveyed all their staff and we surveyed all their customers. And when it came to would you recommend X as a place to work, 78% of the customers said they would recommend. And when you ask the staff, right, would you recommend X as a place to work? 60% recommended. When we dug into the detail, so how do you get from 60 to 90? How do you get from 78 to 90? So how do you get the staff from 60 to 90? Well, we looked at the feedback, and it was all about career progression, training. It wasn't about money.
A lot of the times it isn't about money.
Exactly.
A lot of the times it is investing in your staff again,
Yeah.
isn't it?
So they wanted a career, because most of the people in that industry were young. And so they'd come into the industry not knowing whether it was for them or not, and realised it was, and then thinking, right, how do I become a nursery manager? How do I progress? How do I make a career out of this industry? And it was that's what I'm not saying that they wouldn't have been wanting more money, but clearly that company were paying them the going rate, and they felt
but not as much job satisfaction. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just little tweaks like that can make it better then, can't it?
And the other thing was, which stood out from that particular survey, was recognition. So they wanted, in a staff meeting, they wanted to be told they were doing a good job. But it wasn't just a staff meeting, it could have been just passing in the corridor.
Yeah.
It was, oh, brilliant job you did so and so, on that thing, thanks for helping us out. Those kinds of comments go a hell of a long way.
Yeah. So what other mistakes do companies make? What other stuff can they? So team meetings is a great one. Recognition, career paths. What other mistakes do they make? What other tips can you give?
I think a lot of their businesses underestimate the capability of their team. They could, in a nice way, push them more. To get them to deliver perhaps more than what they could be by setting targets that may be a little bit challenging, that kind of thing.
Oh, I like that.
So that they think, oh, right, this is the goal, how can I get there? Well, if they land a bit short, well, you've still improved the performance of your business by X. So I think those kinds of things.
I'm that's for me as well. I'm a big scary ass goal, and let's see if we can get half the way there or three quarters of the way there. Because if you don't push yourself, you don't know what your goal is or your targets are going to be, then what are you doing as a company? You're just staying still all the time, aren't you?
Yeah, I suppose if it becomes to the managers and the leaders in that business, make sure you're out there leading from the front. Not all the time, but show them people that it can be done, and you're prepared to do it.
Yeah, but also a lot of the time it could be team members that have read up on the industry and know more probably than the managers.
Yeah, that's right.
That can bring like AI. What do I know? But there could be stuff that your managers are scared of implementing, or it's way out their depth. That the younger members coming through have been trained in college or trained in uni about it, and unless you've actually analysed someone's CV, you just don't know what other stuff they've done or that they could bring to the table.
That is true. And you might have staff members as well that they want to improve or progress or do better, but they just don't know how to. And like you said, you're pushing your staff more and giving them those challenges or those goals to meet. And someone may be thinking, oh yeah, I'd like to do that, but I just don't know. And it's just how to nurture your staff so that everyone's raising.
Then they fully form part of that team, then, don't
definitely.
they? Bring a lot to the table then. So Mark, we've got a lot of clients that are setting up from scratch. They've not got very much experience in this field. What would you recommend they start with so that they get their customer journey to the best that they can start off with that?
I think if you're starting up from scratch, it's think about what you're going to do, sort of depending on what kind of business you're in. But at the end, it doesn't really matter what kind of business you're in, you're selling something. So there's going to be an initial inquiry stage. So what happens at that inquiry stage? How are you going to communicate? How are you going to make sure that you set the right level of expectations, what you're delivering and what the customer expects. So matching those expectations, I think, is important. And then the delivery. you're going to deliver a product or a service. How does that get delivered? But what happens at the end? Are you going to ask that customer for feedback? Are you going to say when a project is complete? Make sure that you ask for feedback.
And then how do you found that as well, don't they? They don't ask. How was your experience with us?
And I think that you from that moment you then learn about your how do I get it? How can I improve for next time? And and if you get a really great review, don't be scared to say, would you mind putting a review on my website or on my Google My Business page or whatever that might be. And I know we've certainly seen an increase in inquiries from driving Google reviews to our Google My Business page over recent months. And it seems to have made, it's hard to know that is the thing that's making the difference, but we've had more inquiries over the last 6 weeks since we've been doing it for our leaflet distribution business than we've had most of the year.
Right.
So
I think the market is changing in the last couple of months, hasn't it? It's like everyone's come out and everyone's decided to start spending again.
And our Google traffic has gone, I can't even work it out. I need to have a few months worth of comparison before I can sort of put my finger on what's going on. But we're seeing conversion rates on our Google AdWords that we've never seen before.
Wow.
And but we've been doing different things with our Google AdWords and with our Google reviews. So
what would you say would be your
basic budget
if you were going to do some Google AdWords?
Well, our budget for door-to-door is £150 a month. That's what we spend. But you can spend, if it's working, spend more. But be careful. I mean, speak to an expert. I've spoken to a few experts over recent months, and you can probably figure it out yourself to get you a certain part of the way. But it's worth seeking some expert advice if you can, because you can set it up yourself. I set it up myself, and now even after some advice I was able to continue to do it myself. And I wouldn't say I'm nowhere near an expert, but it's worth getting some expert advice.
So to lots of the listeners as well, £150 is probably a lot of money. Especially if you're started with hardly any income. But you've got to spend money on marketing, haven't you?
I think you are, but I think you certainly starting out. Then I think or just organics. Getting reviews, changing your content all the time, working out what your key search words are. Those aren't going to cost you anything. If you're constantly updating what you're doing, Google recognises that, as far as I know. But you might want to interview someone who's an expert.
It's a constant tweak, isn't it? And that's what I think a lot of people, they set up a website, don't they? They just don't do. They just don't amend it, do they? They've set it up and they keep it out there, and then that's it, isn't it?
No, my favourite quote of all time is one of the golfers. I think it was Gary Player. He said, "Funny thing is, the more I practice, the luckier I get." And if you apply that to a work situation and you're thinking about marketing and it's not working, well, don't just sit there and think it's not working. Do something about it. The stuff you can read, you can watch YouTube videos and things like that. It's just investing your own time in thinking, right, how can I improve it? And that on it in its own can make a big difference. And that's not going to cost you a penny, but it will cost you time.
And that's what we do here as a team. We do exactly that. Over the last 2 or 3 years, all of us have been listening to podcasts when we get ready, when we're driving. It's just like dead time otherwise, isn't it? And you can really improve yourself and improve your own money, can't you, just by listening to it?
It's getting the right mind, isn't it? If you really want to make it work, you can make it work. But I think
not that you're just on a 9 to 5. I think if you're a business owner, you can get rid of the bloody 9 to 5, because it just doesn't happen, does it? It starts at like 5 o'clock and ends like 10 or 11 sometimes, doesn't it?
I don't think there is a 9 to 5.
There isn't.
Business
No. But then there are times though when you say, right, I'm not doing it today. I'm going to do something. I'm going to go out for a walk. I'm going to watch TV with my family or whatever it might be. But you don't have to do it every single day.
No, you've got to have a bit of downtime for yourself.
But I find as well, when you go on holiday, it's that taking the notebook. And then it's just like, oh my God, the ideas just don't stop flowing, do they? So Mark, you offer mystery shopper experiences. Is there anyone that you can tell us about? Have you got anyone that you've done recently, or any big campaigns that you're working on?
So firstly, there's if you are employing a team of mystery shoppers and you want to get feedback on your business, you've got to think about how you're going to do that.
Yeah.
And the commoditized version of mystery shopping is a tick box exercise, and you select from a list of comments. In the comment box, you tick which one you want, and that goes onto the report. Pretty much that's what the commoditized version is. What we tend to provide is more tailored. So you're going to find out, you've got the tick box. What's the word? So you've got the tick box measurement. So you've got that gives you a score. You've then got the comments where really all the juicy bits are contained. Because whilst the person might have given you all their attention and good eye contact and smiling, there's other things that they could have done to help you at that moment in time. So you get the full commentary, and the idea is to put the business in their customers' shoes. So
who puts the tick list together? Is that something you guys do as a company?
So that becomes what is effectively the report.
Yeah.
So, for example, one of our clients is Eurotunnel. So you drive down to Folkestone and you board the train. You go through all the process in between, all the customer journey from the check-in gate to what we call the au revoir when you exit the train, and we measure all elements in between. So it might be, right, I'm at the check-in gate. There's a process you have to go through, but then you're going to ask a question about something to do with Eurotunnel or your trip, and so you've got the tick box where did certain things happen at certain times, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you're at the automatic gate and you press the call button, did they answer with their name? Things like that. That would be a tick, yes or no. So you get the quantitative element of that report or that section will say, yeah, they scored 7 out of 8. So that you transfer that to a percentage.
I think I'd like to be the one that doesn't move. I'm in the car thing and I'm not moving. What do they come and do? Do they make you move?
I mean, that has happened. We've actually had people break down in the lanes on the way to boarding, and that just by pure chance, it gives you an interesting different view, because we wouldn't typically want to do that.
Yeah.
But things like that does happen.
Pull over. It's like causing delays now.
I think in that instance, they have their own breakdown truck, so they literally get you out of the lanes as quickly as possible, and then deal with that after that.
Because you're going to delay them taking off. They've got certain times, haven't they?
Yeah. So you've got the quantitative element, the tick box, the scoring, and that's useful. But the qualitative piece, which is the commentary, right? How did it make me feel? What happened? What actually happened? During that little section of that customer journey. Then you move into the terminal building, then you border control, then you get on the train itself, and then the au revoir at the end. And we do that 20 times a month.
Wow, we'll talk about you next time.
Wow. So would you have different people from your team of mystery shoppers that might do the same thing? So because you could have someone doing that process, that journey,
and they get to know that person, don't they?
Not even necessarily that, but you might have one person that's quite a sensitive person, so when it comes to like the comments, how does it make you feel? Anything slight is going to be, that made me feel this, that or the other. And you might have someone else that's not as you've got different people with different emotions, and
that comes across in the reports. And certain people have a different tolerance level to other people, but the one thing we do not want to do is to get emotional about it, because the clients in the most cases are interested in the facts. So even though that happened and that made you feel, you can still articulate it in such a way that takes the emotion out of it. Right. So because the client will want to know, right, okay, if you start talking about customer journey and customer experience, before that you start looking at the personas of your client, of your customers, and you'll have a number of different personas. There'll be the nervous person, there'll be the person that's used to dealing with certain things, and how do you make sure that your team are aware of those different personas, of those different customers, so that they can be aware of that when they're dealing with them?
I think that's really important. I'm a red, I'm a quick decision maker. whereas Sarah's a green-blue. She's a team player. She's quite analytical as well. So she will do things very differently from me. And I think your team knowing styles of people is really important, isn't it?
We've all been there, haven't we? You know, you've had customers who make decisions like that, and you're up and running. Other people that'll take a longer time to make that decision. I need more information. And that's the same with customers experiencing your business, your products, your services.
Have you got any other famous mystery shoppers you can tell us about? Come on, we want the dirt.
I mean, there's things we did. I mean, one of the things that was really good to do was when we did a project for Cafe Nero, and they were doing a pricing project. So they were trying to work out what the price of a cappuccino was in Dublin, in Belfast, in Glasgow, in Newcastle, across the whole country. But not every single town and city. But also, what's the cost at a service station? What's the cost at a drive-through? Those kinds of different things. So, or a business park, and all these kinds of different things. We had to literally go in and get price lists of everything, but not just
like a physical price list.
Yeah, we didn't actually go into any Cafe Nero's. It was all their competitors.
Okay.
So we were in Greg's, Starbucks. There was one other, I can't remember who it was. But but so gathering all that information, then putting all that information into a spreadsheet, so that their buying team or they could say, right, this is how much they're selling the cappuccino for in the drive-throughs at Starbucks.
That's really handy, isn't it? We've all had experience, haven't we, of people sending us emails on, you know, for us, how much is your serviced offices, your lockables, how much is your virtuals? We've got quite a lot in this area, so we get quite a lot of ones that are never going to come back to you.
So you need to know what your price and your competitors are.
No, I just don't care. We're going to charge what we charge because we know what great service we give in addition to what you get for the money. But I'm sure there's a lot that do email to us.
But I suppose for the desk team, for the serviced offices for desk team, because you are desk team as well, people are buying into you as well. So you know, from when they come here and you show them the building and
what do you give extra that other people don't give?
Exactly. So you know, part of the rent is you as well. So you work for every penny.
I think one of the there's lots of different things we do every year, but some of the stuff we did with P&O Ferries was quite interesting, because they don't just have Dover to Calais. They've got Hull to, used to be Zeebrugge, and now it's the port of Rotterdam, and then get on a bus from Rotterdam to Amsterdam, and that was fascinating. That was really
I can feel a B&I away day coming up.
But the other thing was that what they wanted us to do was not just have a mystery shopper or a researcher, measure the experience. They wanted somebody who had a disability. So we had people, we were able to get a researcher who a family member had a disability, and that was quite interesting. And there's other stuff we've done in that kind of sphere, if you like, with working with disabled people in terms of measuring the experience. We've done that with Eurotunnel. Eurotunnel changed a lot of their policies based on one mystery shopper. And because they realised they weren't treating them differently, and they had to, because they needed them at a certain part of the carriage, that kind of thing. So it wasn't just that, there was lots of other things, but how you deal with signage, announcements, all that kind of stuff.
Well, I think we can go and get you a contract with South Eastern, can't we? You're going to do like the local transport and
yeah, that'd be interesting.
That's a big report.
So Mark, how do you see the future of customer services evolving in this day and age?
Well, we've been involved in this business since 2012, and we've already seen a lot. You see, there's a lot of difference over that period of time, and I think it evolves as our own, as individuals, our own kind of expectations change. You expect certain things to happen. New businesses coming into the market, changing the way they deliver their services to their customers, and understanding the difference between customer service and customer experience. You know, customer service is 10 years ago was probably what customer experience is now, in a sense of we can differentiate between a functional customer service, you know, happening. You know, you go into a store, you get your stuff, you go, that's it. You know, the experience becomes quite different when they start engaging with you, saying, oh, good morning, how's your day? That kind of thing, leaving you with a good impression. Did you get everything you were looking for? Having that level of dialogue.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that's almost like the bare minimum now.
Yeah, and I think, you know, where things are changed, especially like when you go into supermarkets, everything is
And
self-checkout
banks.
now.
Yeah.
And for me, there was a point prior to now that I would never go to a self-checkout and to check out my shopping at all, because I wanted the interaction with someone at the till. And I'm finding now with shops, and you know, everything's sort of geared towards you going in and be self-sufficient, from, you know, choosing your shopping to paying for your shopping. And for me, I think where a lot of supermarkets are losing the trick is, you know, they're pushing everyone down that route, and there's less interaction with the staff, or there's no staff on the shop floor at all. So, and for me personally, I like to go into a shop and speak to someone.
We will queue another 5 minutes
Yeah.
in Marks and Spencer's just to go and speak to the lady, just to have that personal service. And they really like it. Sarah mentions their name and their little, you know, they feel as though they've given a good service to the day, don't they?
Yeah.
They're not just, you know, Sarah on the thing bleeping things through.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the way how the stores are going, because, you know, some shops now, you go in at a certain time of the day and there is no one there. You have to go through
Yeah.
self-checkout. So I do it now, but I do it reluctantly.
I think if you look at the connection between customer experience and business performance, you know, they're inextricably linked. And the Institute of Customer Service this year, or in fact every year, they produce what they call their customer service index, and they look at lots of different sectors, lots of different businesses, and they come up with an overall score. And they've seen the score fall in this last 12 months for the first time for a number of years.
Wow.
But there's when you start looking at a sector, such as say the supermarket sector, and you look at the supermarkets that are performing in that sector, it's the businesses that have invested in customer experience, and their scores are higher than their competitors. And you don't have to be much better than your competitors for that to translate in what's exponential growth. So if you look at Marks and Spencer's, if you look at the case study that the Institute of Customer Service have pulled together, it is fascinating. Where, you know, it didn't just happen overnight. They spent money on investing in the customer experience, and that's the end-to-end thing. It's not just about the interaction with the staff, but that's part of it. But it's also the products, how they're displayed, the choice, and all those kinds of things, and how where they are in the store. So they looked at the whole customer experience, end to end, the whole customer journey, invested in that. And you look at their numbers. You know, I think, did they drop out of the FTSE? They dropped out of the FTSE and they came back into the FTSE this year, I believe. You need to check that, but their sales performance has gone through the roof compared to their competitors.
Wow, that's really interesting. Do you reckon a lot of that is because of automation and you know, the self-checkouts, and that they offer you know, the person behind the till as well?
I think it's because they've sort of invested in the whole. Some people will be quite happy to do the checkout. Other people want a bit more of an experience, and I think if you can give that across the board, then you're giving. You start looking, when we come back to what we're talking about, customer journey, you're talking about the personas of the customer that just wants to get in, get out. Make sure you can give them the experience they're looking for. They don't want to be clogged up anywhere down through the process.
Who your customers are.
But I suppose it's having that balance as well, isn't it? Because, you know, if you've got the self-checkout and you've got people on the till, you've got that choice there. But if it's you're going into a shop and it's just self-checkout.
So if it's for you, Sarah, your persona's different.
Exactly, yes.
It's definitely to my son, who's going to want to get in and get out as quickly as possible. It's the last place he wants to go to. And whereas, I'm not saying that that's not the last place you want to go to.
I'm all about balance.
But it's about, actually, when I come in here, I don't want to just do that. I want something a bit more.
And I think that's the big downfall, isn't it? Marks and Spencers obviously do know their clients. They do know that there is a lot of middle-aged to elderly clients who like a nice product, but also want that interaction with people, don't they? How many older people want to go and do the bleeping on the tills? Because we still see Marks and Spencer staff helping them do that, don't we? If you're in early, there are no tills open. You've got to go and do that, haven't you?
And the data also says that if you get that right, people spend more.
Yeah. Wow.
So I guess if you've got a certain amount of customers coming in the store every day or every month, whatever that number is, they're going to spend X. So if you increase their average spend, it's a lot easier to keep your existing customer base happy than it is. It's more expensive to then go out and acquire more customers.
It's a huge thing, isn't it? To know who your clients are and how do you keep them happy?
And it's that, I suppose, when you're talking about businesses, and we all do this, is that difference between retention and what I call customer acquisition. I'm not talking about mergers and acquisitions. I'm talking about I want new customers, but I also don't want to lose any of the existing customers.
Yeah.
And so, the worst case is, and I think we've probably all been there, is when suddenly a customer stops buying from you, and you think, damn it, why have they stopped buying? Right. When was the last time I spoke to them? 6 months ago. That could be a problem. So how when you talk about customer experience, how you keep your existing base of customers happy and understand, speaking to them from time to time, dropping them an email, sending them a survey, out of 10, how do you think we're doing? Get that feedback.
And not to be scared to do that.
I remember talking to someone at a networking event a few years back, and they were thinking about leaving an accountancy firm, their own business. And the week before, I had listened to a talk from this particular accountancy firm, and they spoke about acquisition and retention of customers. And I said to them, do you do any customer surveys? So this is at the time. They said, no, we don't really do that much. We do ask customers when we speak to them, but that's kind of it. They were pretty, vague about it. A week later, I'm talking to someone who runs a business who is part of that accountancy firm and is thinking of leaving because they thought they didn't get a very good service from them. And I was thinking to myself, that company is not asking this customer what they think of them, because if they did, they might find out they're not very happy, and they might be able to do something about it. And it's just like that realization that if you don't make a plan for your customers, somebody else will.
Wow, that's powerful, Mark, isn't it?
So Mark, you have a background in leaflet distribution, so how can a business use the traditional methods of distribution and the digital world that we're in now of marketing?
I think when you look at print media and having a piece of paper in your hand, and then you go, what people do is check their website, they might check their social media stuff, they might check their reviews. So the two are completely linked. One of the things that we found during the pandemic was I think we closed for 2 weeks before customers were knocking on our door saying, we can't just sit on our backsides and do nothing, we've got to get out there and market. And they got over the initial kind of shock and thought, if I just sit here, my business is going to go bump, so I've got to do something. And so we started to get going again. And we came across businesses we'd never even thought would ever be interested in leaflet distribution, trying leaflet distribution, because they get their cut through online, they weren't getting anywhere. So one of the ways they wanted to do that was to drive traffic to their websites through a leaflet campaign. And there was one client we worked for who changed So you might want to think, I need a new kitchen, but you don't want to spend loads of money, so you just change the doors because they're a bit tired, a bit, the colours aren't quite what you want now. And so he changed his kitchen, the doors on your kitchen, basically. And we did 20,000 leaflets for him. And I said to him, how did it go? He said, we didn't get a single call for the leaflets.
On 20,000?
Yeah, wait, I haven't finished yet. But he said, everywhere you've leafleted, because I know where you've been, because we used to tell him with GPS tracking, he said, we've had web inquiries. And because of that kind of business, you're thinking, I'm not going to spend a few £1,000s on some new kitchen doors. I want to know a bit more about this company. So I'm checking them out online. I'm looking at the case studies. I'm looking at the reviews. And then he's getting the calls. So that's what happened with that particular customer. And then there's other businesses that really, I suppose that him making people aware of the type of business he was one thing, because you perhaps wouldn't necessarily think about, I want a new kitchen, or I'll just change my kitchen doors. So he wanted to make people aware of, here's a service that's available. Whereas other types of businesses like builders, roofers, gardeners, those kinds of, there's a lot online. The leaflet is another way of using marketing to get new customers. So I think you can't, if you're talking about look at businesses that run they'll have TV. We did some work with Deliveroo, so TV ad, online stuff, social media, and leaflets all at the same time. They wanted us to hit the houses with the leaflets when their ads are on.
Right. Yes.
And repetition equals recognition. And with all the stats, 5 to 7 times before a customer will engage. It's probably more than that now.
Yeah.
But those are the older.
We are seeing lots of that as well. We, as owners of service offices, there is a lot of times where people will come into the offices just to make sure that the client works here, they have an office here, before they go on and pay money with them. Yeah, even if you're a virtual office here, we say we can take a message, they're not here at the moment, but people do come in before they actually spend money
just to check them out.
Yeah, so they'll go online to see if their website is okay, they'll check out where their offices are they operating from a house. That has a lot to do with whether they're professional or not, and whether they're going to go down the route of spending money with you. But yeah, a lot of our tenants here have experienced clients coming in to check if they're really here. But that shows that people are doing their homework, doesn't it, as well, before they're going to put their hand in the pocket. But definitely things are changing in the last 6 months or so. People are spending more money. So it's I think what we're doing today with you as well is really important, that clients do spend money on their business, to check where clients are coming from, and to make sure they're giving the best service that they can, so they don't lose any clients.
And if you're setting up, that's even more important, isn't it? Because initially you really want to sort of get some clients on board so you can get some reference points. Yeah,
and I think these days people are most interested in having like thousands of followers, but I think it's more important to have 50 people that really like you, or 100 people that really like you and that are willing to spend with you. For me, it's not all about thousands of followers.
No, and I suppose another thing is, so say someone was interested in your leaflet servicing, what would be the is it a case of where would you advise them to say, based on their location or their business, they sort of like the leafleting would be more local to where they are, or is it just all depends on the client and what the target audience that they're looking for?
I think I was talking to a new customer this morning actually, who's setting up a business in Kidbrooke, and she's literally running a kitchen from her house, doing food deliveries, and it's fascinating to talk to her. And it's and in terms of the mileage from the radius from her house, initially it's like, let's start local, and then move out. So it does depend a little bit on the business, but I suppose if you are a gardener, for example, then you probably do want to work local. But if a big opportunity comes up and it's a half hour, an hour's drive, then
who's going to turn that down?
It's a bit difficult, but yeah, if you want to, it depends on the size of your campaign as well. If you want to run a 5,000 leaflet campaign, then you're not really going to get much more than a quarter of a mile radius, really. If you want to hit, if you want to hit the whole of the Bromley borough, you're looking at 140,000 leaflets, because that's how many houses there are. So it's it just depends what you want to do. So we did some work with Biggin Hill Airport, because they wanted to communicate to the borough what they were doing, and get people involved in what they're doing. And the campaign was was successful in that sense, because they got a lot of engagement. They did a competition. They wanted people to sign up to their newsletter. Yeah, and they were really happy with the numbers they got. So it's about creating, in their case, it was about creating awareness. For the lady this morning, it was about, right, I need to sell my food. So, but and she was saying that she's on Deliveroo, but it's like, okay, but how do people know you're on Deliveroo? Because I guess if you want a certain type of food, that might be one way, but what about if you want to try something new? You don't know what new to try. So
great way to start though, isn't it?
So again, the leaflet is a great way of saying, right, I'm here, order my products, and then build up, because I suppose, I don't know how it works on Deliveroo, whether if you get reviews and things like that, you go higher up the pecking order, I don't know, but I'm guessing there's something in there like that.
So have you delivered any leaflets, so you've seen the leaflet and you think to yourself, no, this is not gonna
yes,
or they could do better,
or they could do better.
There was a guy, and he was kind of trying to buy houses that people either need to sell damn quick for whatever reason, or were completely in a state of dilapidation, and he wanted to do them up. And he came in with the leaflet, and he was like handwritten scrawl on the leaflet, right? And he was literally, hey, I'm in your area. I want. If you're interested in selling, I want to buy your property. Words to that effect. This whole. And he saw I looked at it, and my face must have been
what was it
spoke 1,000 words. And he went, it works. I know it works. I've done it before. And he was like, okay, well, you printed 10,000 leaflets, right? So we put them out, and he got work out of it, or rather, he got properties out of it. And it's like, okay, so it's hard to say. If you're, I suppose, does that leaflet do what it says it's going to do? Do you need fancy flash pictures? I'm desperate. I'm in real problem. I need to sell my house damn quick. If you're going to give me cash for it, I'm all ears. So.
And I think probably the call to action was he had that signed up on that leaflet, didn't he?
Yeah, it was simple.
Sell,
give me a call.
Yeah.
Simple. And he knew it, because he knew the people that would do. If you're living in a or a multi-million-pound house in these areas these days, then and you're not going to be interested in calling him up. But
you mentioned earlier as well that people make the mistake of not putting something on the flip side of the leaflet.
Yeah, because you've got two sides of the piece of paper. You don't have a blank side. Even if you repeat it, sometimes I would just say to them, just repeat it at least. If you can't think of anything, you want to get, you've done the design and you want to get it out ASAP. You haven't got time to design the other side, but at least put two the same on. Because at least when it lands on the doormat, it's not going to land blank side up.
That's a really good tip.
So I think that's also a great tip about, you said the certain clients want to do the leaflet drop, they're going to do a social media campaign and something else at the same time. I think that's great exposure, isn't it, it's going to, if you've seen it once, you might get to see it again on your social media. You've got to actually pick it up from your floor and take it to the bin or save it, haven't you?
Yeah, and that, as an estate agent once said to me, as long as people see my branding on the way to the recycling, I'm happy. But that's not all, a lot of, yes, that's kind of true. But we've all been there, haven't we? You've said something you've mentioned a business or a product, and next thing you go on Facebook, there it is.
Yeah, your friends do listen, don't they?
So, if you've seen that leaflet and you mentioned it to your another person in the house or whatever, or then all of a sudden you're bombarded with those images, and it's that repetition equals recognition. And
so when you send your leaflets out, Mark, how many other leaflets are going out? Because I've had it where I've got like 10 all the way through the door. You know, like when the postman comes, or did the postman even get paid to send out leaflets as well? I seem to get tons when it's always Pizza Hut or Pizza Express, or when they come
Domino's.
to
No, you
Domino's,
do use and a lot of the pizza places do use the Royal Mail.
Yeah.
The Royal Mail tends, so if they've got a big pizza leaflet and you've got a little A6 card because you're a gardener, you've got your A6 card is folded in with the pizza menu, and that gets posted through the door. And the person who picks it up straight to the recycling, your little A6 card doesn't even get seen, let alone deliver any business to you. And that's tend to how the Royal Mail operates. They don't offer any GPS tracking, and they're more expensive and they're more difficult to deal with than us, but they do put them through letterboxes. So because at the end of the day, that's what you want if you want a leaflet campaign, but they don't GPS track anything, and they don't provide you with reporting. So whereas what we do is we don't bundle them. Maximum we put out is 4, and we put them through not one separately, one like that, but 4 together flat. So when they land, they scatter. That's the idea. And then so the householder can see your leaflet. But we wouldn't put 2 gardeners out together, or 2 restaurants, or 2 estate agents, because that wouldn't be the right thing to do. It would be one of it. You would never put competing businesses out together. We GPS track, so you've got proof. You've got evidence.
So all of your leaflet distributors are wearing something, are they?
Yeah, there's a little GPS tracking dongle that they get, the size of a key ring. And they just switch that on, and we check every single one before we pay them. And it's partly because if a customer asks us, can I see the tracking, then we've got the tracking. It's there, good to go. If a lot of the time they don't ask very often, because they've often got a response. They've had some calls. It might not necessarily be the response they wanted, but they've had a response. They can see that they're reading. And if I was doing a campaign and I was using my services, I would make sure my address was on that route, or a couple of my friends maybe. I would make sure that there was a way of checking, so that I know that I'm getting the job done that I'm paying for. But yeah, tends to what happens is, if they do a minimum of 5,000, they'll get a response. And
what's the percentage uptake, do you reckon?
Hard to say.
Average.
There are people will give you stats, but think about a street, any street, 100 houses on that street, and you're selling fish and chips for 99p. Every single door is a potential customer, because we all eat. You might not like fish and chips, but somebody in your family might, and for 99p I'm going to go and buy a bag. On that 100, how many people want a new loft?
Probably.
1 or 2?
One,
Catch them, how many might want to sell their house? So if you start thinking, right, so with the more niche your business, the probably bigger campaigns you're going to have to do. And if you say you were a nursery business, you're opening up a new nursery down the road, 100 people, how many people have got kids? How many people have got kids of the right age or are pregnant? So, you
don't know that from the household.
No, but you can kind of make a rough assumption, couldn't you? You could say, 10%, 15%.
Or if your grandparents, you might save it, mightn't you, for someone you know?
I actually had this morning with a cleaning company. Must have been busy this morning, but a cleaning company we work with regularly phoned me up. He said we put some recruitment leaflets out, 1,000 recruitment leaflets. He's looking for cleaners. We put them out in Bellingham, and he said one of the people there recommended us to 3 other people, and so we ended up getting 4 cleaners in Beckenham. It's like, so we need to target now Beckenham to get customers.
Wow, for those cleaners.
So it's like, he said I've got the flip of the problem. The problem normally is I've got these houses to clean.
Mm.
I haven't got enough cleaners. Now he's got the cleaners, but not enough houses to clean.
Wow.
So the first time that's happened to me, but it just shows though the power sometimes. You hit the right person,
Yeah.
and he's suddenly got 4 cleaners. They all fit his profile. They've all got vehicles as well. So he's like, he's like,
They've expanded his
quick,
company for
can
him,
you
haven't
get
they?
these
Yeah.
leaflets out for me as soon as you can? Especially
Wow.
before Christmas, because people want their houses cleaned,
Yeah.
before their
Yeah,
relatives
yeah.
come round.
No mother-in-law.
When it comes to leaflet distribution, though, and it's different laws in different countries. America's completely different. You have to have a letterbox by law in this country,
Do you? I didn't know that.
and that letterbox has to be accessible because it's the Royal Mail.
Mm.
Well, I'm not quite sure I guess it is still called the Royal Mail.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why. Whereas in America, the mail company owns the mailbox, so you're not allowed to put stuff in it like leaflets, like newspapers. Hence why you see the kid on the movie chucking the newspaper. Well, they probably don't do that now, but maybe they do a little bit. But the reason is because they can't put it in the mailbox.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Well, I mean, why would you?
Why
Yeah.
don't you buy your own mailbox?
I suppose you could buy your
Yeah,
own
buy your
mailbox.
own,
Yeah.
yeah.
It doesn't say US mail on it. It says
Yeah, mine.
my mail. Oi. Yeah. Funnily enough, the reason we got involved with leaflet distribution was because we were running the mystery shopping business, and whilst the two are completely different types of businesses, the synergies between the two are very similar in terms of the business models. You know, you have a piece of work, whether that's a mystery shopping assignment or go and deliver all these leaflets onto this map. It's an assignment that's done by a remote workforce. So because we were used to managing a remote workforce of mystery shoppers, we felt it would be, different maybe, but the same principles would apply to managing a remote distribution workforce.
It's a great arm to your company as well, isn't it? A great income stream.
And we haven't had many customers who've done both.
Wow.
There's 1 or 2, but not many of the
I
customers
definitely
have done
fancy
both.
some of the. I think we're due a trip over to France, aren't we? Mystery shopping.
Oh yeah.
Sarah's got a better car.
I was going to say, you
Yeah.
drive.
Yeah, if you ever want to do a trip, then let me know. We have to do a bit of training because there's a lot. If there's 2 of you, it's great. There's lots of things to remember.
Yeah.
If you're on your own,
Oh no, we'll do it together. We'll do it together. Yeah.
yeah.
Have you got a big boot in your car? Haven't you?
you get stopped by customs.
Yeah.
Why have you got so much?
Mystery
Liquor.
shoppers. We got the email from Mark. Experience. Have you done any personally yourself? Mystery shoppers.
Yeah, I've done quite a lot myself. I'm just trying to think of the worst one.
Have you been sworn at or?
I have actually been sworn. I'm not being sworn at. But there was a care company. It was a few years ago. Who asked us. He suddenly got a contract to provide carers to Kent County Council, or obviously not them, but whoever their people they needed care for. And he was worried that somebody from Kent County Council would phone up and make an inquiry to test like a mystery shopper. So he asked us to do the work first. And I did one of them, and the woman swore at me.
Wow.
Or she didn't really swear at me, she used the F word while kind of in the conversation.
Wow.
I was like, oh my goodness,
Shabby.
if you'd have said that, if that would have been Kent County Council,
Wow.
I'm not going to, but I was phoning up as like my parents, that kind of conversation, then I think I need to get some
So
care
just
in.
like an inquiry,
Yeah.
general inquiry.
Yeah,
Wow. I love a swear as well, but
it was,
there's times and places.
it was like, I'll probably, you wouldn't even
No.
invite them out for a
No.
quote.
Wow.
No.
Wow.
But yeah, and that's kind of quite bizarre. And we fed that back to the owner, and he wanted to, he said to me, he said, I want to do 10 mystery shops a month. And I said, okay, brilliant. One half of you's thinking, work, money, da-da-da. The other half I'm thinking, what's he going to do with this? Because I'd asked him about how his business was structured, thinking, if I'm going to give him feedback on 10 experiences, what's he going to do with it?
If anything.
Yeah, and anyway, 3rd month in, phoned me up, and I can't remember why I phoned him up, or he phoned me up, I can't remember. So he got 30 reports, and I said, what have you done with them? He said, nothing. He said, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with the feedback. And it's just like, and we ended up stopping working it. So there is a bit of a qualification these days at the start about, right, what you're going to do with the info, because...
Do you advise them as well how to treat the information once they've got it?
Yeah, we can do. Because some people say to me, should we tell the staff we're running a mystery shopper program?
No. I wouldn't want them to know. There's arguments on both sides.
Well, it depends, isn't it? You know, you could tell your staff
you
members, but you can only be on
but
you can only be on alert for a certain number of, days or weeks until you sort of revert back to how you normally are.
Yeah.
It's a bit like what's that show? Big Brother. They're probably in the studio, in the house, and maybe the first week or so. But then after that, everyone just forget the cameras are there. So it's probably kind of the same like with the.
I think if you know you're going to get one mystery shop a month, and you know when that one mystery shop has taken place, then you can think, I don't have to worry about it for another 20 days or whatever.
Or you'll be telling your colleagues.
That wouldn't be good. But, yeah. So, but in my opinion, would be you would tell people and be honest.
You tell your staff that you're.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, because you got to be. But you've got to be clear on the reason why you're doing it.
Yeah.
It's because we want to improve the. Sometimes I felt like I'm the customer service police, but I'm not. We're just providing feedback.
Yeah.
It's not feedback. Isn't judgment.
No.
Yeah.
It's feedback.
Yeah.
But the guy that didn't know what to do with the feedback, he's probably not having team meetings. They're probably not doing reviews
The whole
of their
thing,
staff.
yeah. So how are you gonna? So I'm going to give you all this feedback. What are you going to do with it? I actually don't know. Well, maybe you should speak to your team, and when you've done that, and you're happy with what you how you why are you doing it?
Yeah.
Is it because you don't? I did that. We actually got rid of a company that sold sheds because they were using us to go on to certain shops, to certain people, and if our report was bad, they got sacked.
No, that's not good.
And it's like, that's not why we do what we do.
Yeah, you're doing HR for them, aren't you?
Yeah, and they were using the report and dismissing them. And we found out about it, and it's like, then the next call came in. He said, right, I want you to visit so-and-so. They work between certain time, and I said, what are you going to do with the feedback? And that was it. It was like, then you're having that it wasn't a difficult conversation because he couldn't tell me.
Yeah. Wow.
I said, why are you using us to, we know, we kind of know what you're doing, now we know for certain. And so I had to say, look, we can't work with you.
Good for you that you've got, standards that you're not going to work with someone like that.
Yeah, it's about, with you're gathering data, you're gathering feedback, and you're then presenting that to someone.
To improve.
And it's like to improve your business performance.
Yeah, not to sap.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you, Mark, for coming in and spending some time with us today. It's been really useful.
It's been great.
Work
Thank
that
you
do, and very informative. And
great insights, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
On what companies can do.
I'm
to have their own companies.
I'm sure a lot of people will take a lot from this today. So thank you very much for your time.
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
We will put details into the text below. If you want to contact Mark, you feel free to contact him and see if there's anything he can do to help your business. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's your social media?
Yeah, please do follow you. And on market research, mystery shopping's Inside 6 Kent, and also door to door is door to door BRSE London.